So the band is back together. We're 4 men strong today. Last week we were only three, but Kevin is abandoning his family again this week to be with us. He was in the doghouse anyway, so it probably doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
But good to have Kevin back. Good to have Robbie as well as Austin here to discuss brackets. We're gonna look at the draws and we're gonna make some predictions because that's the only thing we got left outside of the wrestling, right? So let's start at 125, the biggest shit show of them all. And since Kevin was missing last week, I'm going to start with him. What are your thoughts on 125 and who are you picking to win that bracket?
So I'm picking Ramos to win it all. He's the guy who started off as the number one ranked guy, returning national finalist. We've seen him perform at the highest level, and I think he's just going to be able to do it again. He's the guy that I trust the most at this weight to put together consecutive series of matches to get it all done, right? I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm looking at my brackets now. I have an all Big Ten final. This weight has to finish with a bang, right? We can't get to March and then just have it be 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds in the end, right? So I do see Patrick McKee putting a run on the top side, getting through to Friday night wrestling Ramos. I have Ayala and D'Agostino on the bottom half, and D'Agostino is what 2-0 against Ayala this year, so I have him in the finals against Matt Ramos.
He's undefeated against his razor too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. He's going full castaway with the beard, which I completely love. But that's a that's a hell of a pick. I do agree with the Ramos side of it. I do think that he is the most trustworthy in the bracket. Braden Davis still kind of wet behind the ears, right? The kid just got his driver's license like a week ago. So still a
Yeah.
little young for the bracket, right? So a little bit of inexperience. But I do think that, Kale will have him completely prepared, but it's ultimately just different, right? Like it's very very different. He's got what 21 matches under his belt, and most of these guys are battle tested and ready to go. So I agree with Ramos being the guy that you should have the most trust in because we've seen him do it on the biggest and baddest stages. My only thing is that he did it when he had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Since seeing that, I feel like there's been some pressure to him, right? Like he came in number one, finished the regular season number one, ultimately lost at Big Tens. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder for him when he's got a bit more of a target on his back to do it. Um, but yeah, I mean, Patrick McKee navigating that would be a hell of a bracket, honestly, especially for him. We've seen him go one and straight to the backside, one loss or one win, and then losing in the second round and then cleaning up on the backside. I said it last week. I want to see him do very, very well. I think I agree with Matt Ramos winning this bracket. I do not have an all Big Ten final. I have Luke Stanich making it. Call it some
Ooh, okay.
Homer Lehigh type of thing, but I see Luke Stanich being a little bit different in this one. Him and Ayala wrestled earlier in the year, and Ayala won on a takedown in overtime. So it wasn't the easiest match for Ayala. We've seen him get things done in crunch time, but I feel like by the time Ayala and Stanich hit, Stanich is going to be a lot heavier. He's going to have his legs under him. He's going to be, ready to rock and roll, which is exactly what we saw for him in the EIWA finals, right? Like by the time he got there, he had his legs back under him. He was fully hydrated. He only had, a little bit of time that he needed to get his weight back down. This time he'll have plenty of time to get his weight back down, for making the finals. So I see him there taking on Matt Ramos and Ramos winning. Robbie, what do you think?
I mentioned beforehand, full caveat, I'm going with the picks that I use that are uh, most, I think the most positive way that the ACC can finish. I haven't done my final picks yet, but this is the way I see it shaping up the best case scenario for the ACC. With that point on Stanich with the weight, is actually where I have him losing on Friday morning. I got Camacho knocking him out Friday morning. I think that weight cut after, a tough day to start will be a little bit more of a challenge for him. I love where Camacho's at. He's super locked in. He's already got a win over the number one guy. Well, I guess not the current number one. But he knocked off Ramos earlier in the year, and he's looked great. So I got him taking out Stanich in the quarters, then over Ayala in the semis to meet Ramos in the finals.
Yeah, that's a great point too. That Friday morning right off the scale wrestling Camacho will be certainly very tough. Austin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna copycat with what Robbie said. I have Camacho and Stanich in that quarter, and honestly, I don't have a winner for that one because, like Robbie said,
It
Stanich
hasn't happened yet. That's why.
Well, yeah, just my prediction.
Oh,
Not, I don't have one yet because it's like you said, Stanich off the scale after making weight the previous day, right? So I kind of saw a little bit of that EIWA's that semifinal match was a little close for comfort, I think, against a tough Army Bergen kid. But yeah, I mean, I have Ayala and Ramos in the finals. I have Ramos winning as well. I feel like those two have been the top two guys that we've seen most consistent throughout the year. But Stanich, just a big wild card, hasn't faced top level opponents yet in that weight cut. It's been a thing all year. I hope it's not a thing. If I'm going to be biased, I hope he beats Camacho. But again, that's the matchup I'm really looking forward to see if Stanich can pull through.
Yeah, he has seen some of these guys, right? I think he wrestled Spratley and wrestled Ayala. Like he's seen some of these guys, but
Yeah,
I
a
think
few.
that weight cut is going to be the toughest thing for him, right? Like when he's on and everything is clicking, he's great. Camacho, he's had his battles with kind of the mental side of things, but I don't think that that's a complete outlier to see him come through the bracket and end up making the finals. Did Ayala and Camacho haven't hit this year, have they?
no.
So that'll be like a fresh one, of probably a lot of feeling each other out, especially if, they get to the semis where that match would end up happening too. So I don't think any of these guys is kind of outside the realm of possibility, right? I think Matt Ramos fully capable of making it back to the finals. Um, like I said, I think Luke Stanich can get there. It's ultimately how he's going to feel off the scale. I think it's going to take maybe one or two takedowns against Camacho to make these things happen. You put Camacho in a hole, it's a little bit harder to dig out from, but it is going to be those late periods that are going to be the biggest determining factor. Um, but the other match that I really want to see here at 125 is Ayala wrestling Spratley again. They had a really good match when Iowa went to Stillwater. Ultimately, Ayala locks up a cradle, ends up almost pinning him, winning in overtime. But Spratley wrestled a really smart match during that duel. And I think that one could be a little bit closer this time. I mean, obviously, you can't get any closer than going to overtime, but I think Spratley knows the positions that he doesn't want to be in with Ayala and stays away from, putting his head close enough to his knee to get cradled. So I think he stays a little bit more alert, but I think that's kind of my upset alert match in the 125 bracket is Spratley versus Ayala. Have you guys had and Kevin, I'm going to come back to you. Have you had anybody in the bracket where you're like, this guy could be kind of a bracket buster?
You think there's going to be upsets at 125? Yeah. I got a couple.
I think it's
yeah.
going to be completely chalk.
I mean, my
31 of
main
them.
dude, I don't have that rematch happening at all because I got my dude Braden Palmer of Chattanooga knocking off Spratley. I mean, that guy has been a problem the last several years. He was up at 133. He's super stingy. He's got like jello hips, so it's like really hard to finish traditionally on him. God, it wasn't Ayala. It was Shriever that he beat. I think it might have been last season, the beginning of last season when Chattanooga wrestled Iowa.
Mhm.
So he can wrestle with those guys. Like he's right there. He's tough. And he's 18-2 on the year. So
Yeah, it's one of my big matches for the opening round is Palmer and Flynn. I think that's going to be a really, really good match.
mhm. Do not sleep on him.
Yeah, I think the 125 is going to be, I mean, it's obviously been the weight all year that it looks like somebody just kind of dropped a bomb in and just like turned their back and watched everything kind of fall how it needed to fall. But I think if you're not in your seat when 125 starts, you're gonna miss some stuff, man. Like you're gonna miss some serious stuff. There's gonna be throws. There's gonna be a lot of fireworks at 125, more so than what we're used to, just based off of what we've seen this entire year.
Yeah,
Um,
we got two All-Americans facing off too, Noto and Kaler, first round. You
exactly.
know, two
Mhm.
All-Americans and Unger and Peterson. I think they're both around the 12 guys last year.
Yeah.
You know, so we got a
Yeah.
lot of good guys wrestling right off the bat. Like you said, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, and the seeds that we discussed the seeds obviously last week, but these seeds are going to give us those types of crazy wild matches up and down
Yeah.
the entire tournament, not just at 125, but specifically there because we're starting there. Now moving on to 33, Dayton Fix has a great run for himself. He's in a great spot. The bottom half of that bracket is absolutely insane. I'm picking Dayton Fix to get it done this time. It's going to be in overtime again, but I think he gets it done. I think it's a 1 versus 2 matchup here. It's tough for me to say that Crookham doesn't make the finals. Obviously, the match with him and Vito isn't going to be easy. Vito's been moving un-Vito like as from what we've seen. He's really picking his spots where he needs to be explosive Vito as opposed to hand fighting hard and scoring points, right? So he hasn't been as active when he's on his feet. It's more hand fight and then explode for 5 seconds, kind of hang back when I need to hang back, and just being a lot more strategic when it comes to that. But I see this being 1 versus 2. Um, there's going to be obviously some really good matches in there that we'll talk to as we get through this, but I think it's 1 versus 2, and I see Fix finally getting it done. It's going to be really hard because he's really big. He's actually a really big 33. Like as big as we think Fix is, he's not, right? Like Crookham is a lot bigger. So
He's
I
taller than
can
him too.
he's taller, yeah, and he's wider. Like he's a bigger 33, but I see Fix coming out of this one, finally getting it done so that he can finish off his career. Maybe it's a little bit of wishful thinking from what we've seen from Fix his entire career of being in the finals and then having his worst showing in his home state last year. But I think that he finally gets it done um, and gets the win. Robbie, your thoughts?
I think I agree. I think Dayton's due. He's looked amazing this year. Um, he's got a good a good path to get to the finals. Um, the bottom side is kind of what I don't want to say confuses me. It interests me. I think there's the quarterfinals that I have are fantastic. Like very interested in seeing these, and everything kind of hinges on how healthy is Vito. Is he? We know he's not 100%. Or at least he hasn't looked 100% for a good while this year. And to be able to compete at this tournament, I mean, nobody's really 100% right now, but who's closest to 90%? And I don't feel like he is. And I think Orini in the semi with him, or sorry, in the quarter with him, is a really, really tough matchup. Kai's not going to back down. He's going to be really physical. And I don't know how that goes. I could really see that going either way. Vito's last loss that wasn't to Crookham was to San Wazona. So, I mean, we got a little history in the ACC there. Do we see another upset? I think it's very possible. That being said, I mean, the way Crookham has looked up this year, I think he makes it on the bottom side. So I got Fix and Crookham and I think Fix gets it done. But I'm very, very interested to see where Vito's at.
I like how many qualifiers you had. The last loss that wasn't Crookham, that was an ACC guy.
It was also on a
It's
it was
not this
also on a
ACC
stage.
guy.
It was his only loss
but
that
it
was on a stage.
It was, oh, okay, yes. So don't get on the stage. I don't know. I got Vito making the finals. He's Vito. I think he can figure it out. It's not like he's getting blown out in any of those losses. I mean, last one was pretty close, and I think he's a gamer. But I got Fix winning it too, man. He's got the best path. He's the healthiest. I mean, I don't want to belabor everything that's already been said, but yeah, I think the bottom side is going to be a bit of a bloodbath, and these guys are going to be beating each other up, and they've already been missing some time from being beat up anyway. And yeah, Fix is gonna cruise on in there.
Yeah. Austin, you?
Yeah, I Fix and Crookham, but I can't pick against Crookham right now. Just maybe a little bit of bias on my end, being a District 11 guy, but would I love to see Julian Klebo at 24 knock off Serrano, Frost, and then Fix and be an all D11 final? Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
It
yeah, like you
happened
said,
7 years ago at 125. I don't see it happening again here.
That is true. Yeah, before they started seeing all 33, he was kind of drawn in, right? But yeah, I think, and like you guys all said, Crookham just has a terror on the bottom half there. Teskey, Nagao, or Bailey, Vito, or Arini, and then you're gonna have to most likely face Fix. So he's gonna have a gauntlet to get through. Fix's top half a lot easier, like you guys said, but I'm still going Crookham. Just maybe a little bias in me, but like we mentioned last time, if Vito and Crookham meet again, how hard, it's going to be hard to beat Vito for the third time this season. So again, if that matchup happens, I'm a little nervous for Crookham there too.
Yeah. The thing that when I was thinking Vito versus Crookham, and obviously in their first match, it was Crookham hitting a go behind late to score and win. Second match, it was Crookham on some solid takedowns, like wasting zero time to finish solid type takedowns. So that was kind of the deciding factor for me, was if Crookham is able to score both on Vito's attacks as well as on his own attacks, that's going to be another huge thing, right? Because normally we've seen Vito being able to down block, reattack, move hands very quickly, but Crookham was into a single, cut to a double, and threw his body very, very quick. So I think that was kind of the deciding factor for me to say that it's going to be 1 versus 2. The match that I'm looking at outside of obviously that Arini and Arujao match, should it happen, is that 7 versus 10 in that second round of Nagao versus Nasir Bailey. I would love for Nasir Bailey to make it to the quarters. I would love it. I've been high on this kid all year. I love everything he's doing. I think he's extremely dynamic, still kind of green, figuring it out, just like we've seen with Braden Davis. But I think that Nasir Bailey can ultimately be Little Rock's first All-American. And I think he will do it this year. I will be very surprised if he doesn't. Obviously, he would just have to hold his own seed. But I think that he will be their first All-American. And it's not going to be easy. Obviously, he's going to have to wrestle a very tough Nagao and Crookham, but I think that he can come through it and ultimately make the podium. Is there anyone, Robbie, I'm going to come to you this time. Is there anyone that you're seeing in the 33 bracket that can be that kind of a guy like Nasir Bailey coming through, making it to the quarters, or at least just making it on the podium that we're overlooking?
Well, I think look back at that opening round match and don't sleep on Marlon Yarbrough against Aaron Nagao. He's been incredibly dynamic this year, putting up a lot of points, really, really explosive. And I think that's going to be, if Nagao's not locked in off the scale, that's going to be a tough match. I have Bailey coming all the way through. I've got him placed in third. I've been super impressed with him this year, and I think he's looked fantastic. I definitely like his path. I always feel like Latona's gritty in the tournament, and never sleep on him to be an All-American, even come with 12. Um, I mean, clearly he's got a tough path. He's going to have Ragusin, Shawver, Fix to get to get to the finals, but I don't think, I don't necessarily see that happening. But I wouldn't sleep on him to get back on the podium either.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. The I mean, Nick Buzakis with an extremely tough draw, having Braxton Brown and then ultimately Fix. that's that's like, just looking at draws, that's horrible. Feel bad for the kid, because especially because he was three seed at Big Tens and then just didn't make it happen. You mentioned Latona. He's always a guy that's been like super close, right? He was very close to beating Arini during the duel. I mean, I think that was what, like a 1 point match. So,
Mhm.
you want to see him put it together and make some things happen. Um, but yeah, this weight is going to be a lot of fun. I'm surprised to hear you say Nasir Bailey. You have him coming through and placing third. I
I
was
like
think
him. I,
I
I
I don't think it's a bad pick. I really don't. I mean, I don't know if I had him that high. I thought he'd be like maybe fifth place. But I
I probably
definitely
got him.
did see him out wrestling his seed. He's been wrestling very well this entire year. And, I think if he continues to wrestle the same way that he has, I think he'll be just fine, and he'll be on that podium a number of times throughout his career.
I feel like he's one of those guys that, we have, one or two guys every year that the crowd really gets behind,
Mhm.
and it becomes a story and everybody's cheering them on and really giving him the energy. I think he can be that guy this year. I mean, it's a great story. Little Rock's really put it together. Airsman's doing an awesome job there. To see them, having a guy who's in a position to be an All-American now after, only being around with his fourth year, third year, fourth year.
Yeah,
So
something like that.
uh, that's impressive. So I think he's somebody that the crowd can really rally behind, and I think that can make a big difference, especially on those backside matches.
You getting some Tariq Wilson sort of vibes right now from
He's
Nasir Bailey?
about a foot shorter though.
Yeah. He probably outweighs him after weighing in, though. Tariq Wilson is still like 141 pounds, 133
Yeah,
pounds.
What do you
But
guys
yeah,
think about sorry,
go
what do
ahead.
you think about Tyler Wells at the 20 from Minnesota? He has an overtime win, or yeah, I think he has a win over Shawver this year already, and then Ragusin, he lost in overtime, I think. I just don't know how healthy Wells is from Minnesota. I think he forfeited out of Big Ten, so just that's kind of a guy I've seen that can maybe make a run as a deep seed there.
Yeah, very possible if he is healthy. And you mentioned in beating Shawver, he would have him in the second round should he get
Yeah,
through Phipps in the first one. Um, I mean, I know we said it last week, but I'm still thinking Shawver's seated a little bit too high for losses to Wells, and then he's 1-2 against Ragusin, who he just beat in the finals. But yeah, I that's not a good draw for Shawver. Being a 4 seed at all, right? Like, you're either gonna have Ragusin or Latona, you're gonna have, Fix, there's a lot of guys that you're gonna have to certainly go through in order to even just make it to the semis. So very tough. So yeah, Tyler Wells, if he can repeat what he's done, and obviously if he's healthy, as we're probably gonna say that a number of times in this entire conversation, but if he's healthy enough to get it done, then he could certainly be one of those bracket busters. Up to 41. This is where things start to get a little weird, right? Like, there's a
yeah.
lot of guys that are in this weight class, even though Jesse Mendez has looked ultra dominant the entire year. He's got Anthony Etchemendia in his side of the bracket, who has looked amazing this year, super dominant and very explosive, and like he's kind of figured a lot of things out throughout the year. I don't think that Etchemendia beats Mendez, but I think that's, for me, that's the semifinal for me on that side. I think it's Mendez, Etchemendia. It's it was a really hard pick between Ryan Jack and Etchemendia. Um, but I think Etchemendia has some explosive type stuff, some stuff maybe even going up top that would help him get past Ryan Jack. Ryan Jack isn't really known for throws and things like that. We've seen how Echemendia literally ran through Cole Matthews like a hot knife through butter this year, and he did it. I think I was doing commentary for that match. He did it with all upper body. He just went double unders and just bullied through them. And I can see Echemendia wrestling the same type of match against Ryan Jack, who isn't, I wouldn't say the same style as Cole Matthews, but definitely on that same level where he wouldn't want to be in those types of over under positions, double unders, kind of backing out and needing to clear ties. Um, but ultimately, I'm not picking a top seed on this one. I am going to go with Bo Bartlett. I think that at NCAAs, wrestling close matches is what you have to be ready to do. And that is literally Bo Bartlett's entire season. It's been nothing but close matches, right? So, not panicking in those situations. Obviously, we saw Bartlett very close to making the finals last year. I see Bartlett coming out. I see another 1 versus 2 match here in the finals at 141 pounds. Promise you, I'm not going all chalk throughout this entire thing, but I see another 1 versus 2. It's going to be real hard for Real Woods, honestly, to get past a lot of these guys. I think his second round match, most likely against Jesse Vasquez, even though it could be Malik Hines, Vasquez is probably the freshest in the bracket from not wrestling a lot during this entire year, but I think he gets pushed a little bit. Real Woods gets pushed a little bit by Vasquez. But ultimately I see Vasquez, losing that match, Woods coming out, meeting Bo Bartlett in the semis, and Bartlett eventually making it to the finals. But it's going to be a lot of close matches for Bartlett in order to get there. It's going to be close with him and Matthews in that second round match. I see Matthews beating Mitch Moore. It's going to be close with him and Happel. It's not going to be easy for Bartlett to do it. It's going to be a lot of, one takedown type matches, 4-1s, 4-2s on the board for Bartlett to make the finals. And I think he ultimately comes through and he wins in the finals. He gets his offense started earlier against Mendez because he knows he's going to have to, because Mendez pulled out some tricks in Big Tens. But for me, it's Bartlett. Austin, to you, who do you see winning at 141?
The same exact thing you do. Bartlett over Mendez in the finals. I have Jack, but him and Echemendia I've gone back and forth on to see who wins that one. And I have Real Woods in the semis again, but I do have Josh Coderhunt in the quarters against Woods there. I like Coderhunt from Navy, really good this second semester. He'll have McNeil in the round of 16. I think he avenges that loss, from earlier in the year. I'll just get Kevin's pick out of the way and say Sergio Lemley next weight.
National champion. No, I
Yeah,
haven't placed
like-
third though.
Yeah, I like Lemley and Hardy. I think that's a good match. Second round, man. I could watch those guys wrestle all day. But Kevin, you can go now.
Yeah, so I mean, I think mine got weird real fast. So we're talking styles and explosiveness and everything. I think that if you get Josh Edmond wrestling in Missouri against Echemendia, that's another explosive dude. He can match explosiveness with explosiveness there and maybe sneak out a win there, right? I also have, if we're talking dudes who win close matches, I have Cole Matthews beating Bartlett in the second round. I mean, that guy, he certainly has looked like a different wrestler this part of the season. He's been really, really good. And I think that, what did they have, overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, Robbie, last year at NCAAs?
Yeah, I think
It was something wild, and
Yeah.
it was, yeah. So, and I know this is a different Bo Bartlett. He's looked excellent all year. I hate the close match thing. I get it. I know we've seen several people do it over the years and make it work for them, but it just leaves too many things that can happen in my eyes. So, I ended up having Mendez and Woods in the finals. I have Mendez getting it done.
I
I
mean,
mean,
You gave your bracket buster there too with Cole Matthews beating the number 2 in the second round. That would be that'd be big. That'd be huge. But I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility with who we've seen Cole Matthews to be in the latter half of the year and who we've seen Bo Bartlett to be the entire part of the year, where he is wrestling close matches. And it's, I wouldn't say he's lucky to get out of them, but there's been some where he's certainly been lucky. I mean, the Mendez match during the duel, definitely lucky to get out of that. We've seen him up against Brock Hardy. That's a potentially dangerous call of us not knowing what was going to happen next. So yeah, there is certainly plenty that can happen in that match. Robbie, what are your thoughts?
I got a few thoughts. One, I think what we saw last year, talking about the close matches, that's what kept Cole Matthews off the podium last year, was just being okay with that and not separating himself. And I think that's the difference you've seen from him in the second semester this year, is that he has that's found that separation and kind of kicked it up a notch. I think the 3-point takedown helps him with that as well. But that match, I have Matthews over Moore. I've gone back and forth with Matthews and Bartlett. I think I give the edge to Bartlett right now. I'm also really intrigued by Happel and Bartlett. I think Happel's been wrestling really, really well, and I think he could cause some havoc. On the top side, my questions, I guess, Jesse Mendez has a hell of a path to get through. I mean, the bottom half of that quarter, Hardy and Lemley, that's tough. And then he's going to have Etchemendy or Jack in the semis. That's 2 really tough matches in a row for him to get through. And I don't know, does he do that? I have the same questions for Etchemendy. Is he able to put a tournament together? We've never seen him do it. So can he put multiple matches in a row together? We know that he can be explosive and beat anybody, but can he string those matches together, those wins together, to be able to get through the tournament? I don't have him doing that. I think I have Jack beating him, and then I've gone back and forth with Jack and Mendez. Right now on this bracket I have in front of me, I have Mendez over Bartlett, but I don't know. I mean, this one I've gone probably 20 different ways of how it shapes up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see any of them.
Yeah. With what Kevin said about Cole Matthews winning, if that was to happen in the second round, I see Matthews meeting Happel, in that next quarter. But then I think Happel makes the finals. I don't see Real Woods making the finals.
Agreed.
If Matthews pulls it off against Bartlett, that I think that opens it up for Cale Happel, and Happel ultimately makes the finals against Mendez. I still see Mendez winning. I see Mendez winning in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I think Matthews can be the ultimate bracket buster in that sense, and kind of take it. Anybody else you guys are seeing in the bracket that you think can make a big splash and do something kind of outside the realm of what their seed is?
I mean, Clay Carlson can beat Real Woods first round.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be shocking. Too. I mean, it would be surprising, but
2-time All-American.
Yeah, he's certainly shown that he can do it. And I mean, he hasn't had the greatest season, but we know what he's capable of. I mean, Real Woods has a tough path. I mean, first round Carlson, that's a tough match. Vasquez or Hines will both be really tough. Coderhan and McNeil, that's a hell of a run too. So I don't know. I don't know that he can put together the magic he did last year.
I see Coderhan beating McNeil in the second round. I mean, McNeil's going to have a tough one beating Bombauer. Bombauer's not easy to get by. But I see McNeil being able to do that. But then I think it is Coderhan beating McNeil, Coderhan, and Woods in that quarter is where I think it is. So I agree with Austin on that.
I hope we see a fresh McNeil, because he was struggling at the end of the year. So I'm hoping he, got whatever he needed to out of his system and he's ready to roll.
Yeah. I think having some time between conference tournament and NCAAs probably did him some good, because, he was flying back and forth and doing a lot of traveling, and then ultimately at the end of the year, probably a lot more of those matches are a little bit closer together for him, and they had a lot better competition, so it wasn't the easiest for him at all. So like Camacho, he probably needed a little bit of a break, kind of step back and kind of regroup on it. Um, 49, I don't see Ridge Lovett making it to the finals. This will probably be the first one seed I think that we've talked about that I don't see coming out of it. Actually, no, 125. I didn't have the one seed. I
Seeds
see
aren't a real thing at
Swiderski.
125.
What's that?
Seeds aren't a real thing at 125.
No, they're just there. They're more like page numbers. Um,
Like
I
Christmas
see
ornaments.
Swiderski beating Ridge Lovett. I don't know. I don't know why, but I think it's going to be a close match in the quarters, and Swiderski ends up getting the win over Ridge Lovett by a point. Um, I think the deciding factor will be if Ridge can do something on top. That's where the separation is. On their feet, it's either guy for me. If Swiderski is attacking, if he's moving forward, if he's taking ground, we've seen Ridge get, even though some of the stall warnings weren't really warranted, we've seen Ridge get hit with stalling. We've seen him give up ground in some of these matches as well. So yeah, I see Swiderski making it there. Um, but ultimately I see Caleb Henson beating Swiderski in the semis and making the finals. Um, and then on the bottom side, Parko's not making it either. I see Kasich honestly coming out of that and making it to the semis, wrestling Arrington. So yes, I do see a rematch of the ACC finals here of 3 versus 4, and Henson winning it here at 149.
Let it be known that I am not the only homer who picked that.
I'm not. And here's the thing is, if I picked Ridge Lovett, I would be going full homer because Brian Snyder is his coach. I, I, I love Ridge Lovett. I love him. I think, he's certainly one of my favorite guys in the entire tournament. I would love to see him win it. But the way that Swiderski kind of had a chip on his shoulder after Big 12s, I see him looking to go huge and knock somebody off. And I think he can do it, but I don't think he'll have enough juice to get by Henson. I think he kind of uses it all up to beat Ridge Lovett, honestly. And then it's a 3 versus 4, and I see Henson winning it. So I am going to go to the ACC homer though and see if he agrees with me, which he probably does.
That's exactly what I have, actually. No, I think I said it last time. You're going to have a really pissed off Caleb Henson coming in, and that's dangerous. It was a super close match with Lovett the first time they wrestled, and Henson's gotten better every time he's gone out in the last 2 years. I think he learns really, really quickly from his matches. He's able to adjust really well in match, and I think that's a big skill of his, especially at being young. I do think he beats Lovett. I've kind of gone back and forth on that bottom side. Arrington's looked great. Really, really impressed with where his head's at. Again, he's also a true sophomore. Both of them are. I think the match that scares me down there more than anything is the Gomez match, because Gomez can go big. I think
And
he's
he's a
able to
man.
weather
He's
that.
40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm also almost 40, and I know how that feels. And my second day of wrestling at the NCAAs, I don't think I'd be feeling great. So I have him sneaking through that one and then taking out Parco. I think there's a lot of potential for chaos in that bottom side. I mean, you have Kasich coming through, but I've got Kasich losing first round to Abbas. So I don't know. There's a lot that could go on down there. I don't think Parco makes it through. I think it's from somebody from that top quarter. It's either Gomez or Arrington.
That would be chaos if Abbas beats Kasich.
Yeah.
Mostly for team race stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But like Yeah, that'd be chaos. And you would love to, not love to see it because of all that, but you'd love to see, Stanford succeeding under a new coach, under a new regime, doing some things, only in that regard. You're not, not rooting for anyone to fail here. I don't want anybody getting their Twitter fingers all crazy, but you would love to see a guy who's under a new head coach and assistant coach um make a big splash on the first day, which we've certainly seen in the past. Austin, what are your thoughts here at 49?
Just like you, I got Henson winning the whole bracket. Um, on bottom though, I'm rolling with 6 and 7 semifinal Gomez and Kasich. Um, I think Gomez is just too veteranized, if that's a word, just too experienced at the
It's too
NCAA.
old.
I mean, yeah, he might be too old, but I think that there is a positive in that. Just, he's been in this moment before. He's been under these lights. Kasich, not so much, So I just think based on that alone, I think Gomez has that advantage if he does get by Arrington in the quarter. Um, and I love watching Gomez wrestle. So a little personal there, little personal bias. It'd be great to see him in the finals.
Yeah, that can be fun. I mean, I went back and forth with it too with Gomez. He's
Mhm.
like being the 6th seed. You're like, what the hell, right? Like you don't expect him or Vito to be the 6th seed. You don't expect Carter Sarachi to be a 9 seed either. But those guys having the seeds that they have, you're like, this is a bad draw for just everybody around. But that's why I was like, I think Gomez, Arrington. I'm gonna go with Arrington, just based off of who we just saw in the ACC finals. Um, Kevin, your thoughts?
I don't know why you guys hate watching Ridge Lovett and Austin Gomez wrestle each other, but
I
I
don't. I
love
think
it.
they're gonna wrestle for third and fourth.
That's where I got him doing it.
I got him in the finals, baby. Let's go. Let's get it going again. I think Austin Gomez pins his way to the finals. No, I don't think that. But that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, if we're talking at this level, he's been there before, he's seen it, he hasn't gotten like the job done yet, right? But that's kind of the whole reason he came back. He might be old, but he's kind of fresh on the year. He's only had the 11 matches so far. His 2 losses are to Ridge Lovett. The last one obviously much closer than the first. So I just think he's going to be able to get it done. I think Ridge's top side is really, really tough. I almost picked Swiderski over Ridge, and I think it's because I have that image in my mind of him just losing his mind and his coaches trying to hold him back, and he looked like he looked like he was gonna kill someone. And that bleached hair. So I'm like, maybe I'm more afraid of him than I should be. But he's also a Michigan boy, so I got to roll with that. But I don't know. I just think Ridge has been so consistent all year. So I know it's a tough path, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he's gonna be able to get it done. He's beaten just about anybody already this year that he's gonna need to see in this bracket. So I think he makes the finals, ultimately losing to Austin Gomez, Olympian, Mexico.
Go stamp it. Austin Gomez, winner at 149 for Kevin. No surprise, he's a Michigan guy.
Mm-hmm. These are very heavily Homer.
Very heavily Homer. Yeah, I
Homer
mean,
stamp.
I think I kind of have the same thought with Swiderski in mind. He was giving the very Bosworth type of look. He looked kind of like the Boz.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have that kind of in your mind where he's all jacked up and ready to go. But no, I think I don't think he dominates that match whatsoever. I think it's a late takedown to maybe win it, but you know, I think he can do some really really good things on the top side. Not only that, but their team has looked very good this year. They've looked ultimately dominant the entire year, winning Big 12s, winning CKLV. Like they've just been there and done that. So I feel like they're going to come in very confident.
It's kind of crazy because like were you guys? This is a random thing, but the Brutus event in Detroit, where they had a bunch of like up and coming high school kids wrestle. So Jesse Mendez was wrestling in that against Swiderski, and Swiderski beat him. And then I think Caleb Henson was wrestling in that too. That's somebody I don't remember who he wrestled against, but it's just wild that a couple years later, and we're literally like talking about these dudes in the finals. So, and winning it in certain circumstances. So.
On to 57, and Levi Haynes has probably one of the toughest draws for a top seed. Whether he gets Mahler or Teague Travis in that second round, it's still going to be tough. Any one of the three of Will Lewin Will Luan, Chase Sildate, or Peyton Robb, I think is going to be rough in that next match as well. And then most likely, and then I think he could either have Blockus or Ed Scott in the semi. So I'm actually gonna go, and I know we talked before this, but I'm actually gonna change my mind and go with Blockus to make the semis against Haynes. Mostly because we've seen Blockus beat the top guys in this weight class this year. And like Gomez, he's got that chip on his shoulder, came back for one more year, wants to get it done. Ed Scott has looked phenomenal, specifically in the ACC tournament where he looked more Ed Scott-ish. But I think Blockus is able to get it done and make the semis up against Haynes. I have Haynes winning this entire thing. That's my pick. In the bottom half, I have, and this is probably a homer pick because I know him and his family, but I have Chittum beating Shapiro.
Ooh.
I I I think Chittum really wants that match because he didn't get it earlier. There were two times where he could have gotten it. One, it was in his hands and he ended up losing in the semis. Or I think at least it might have been in the quarters or something like that. Or at least early rounds in Vegas when he was supposed to, if he would have won that, he would have went on to wrestle Shapiro. Missed out on that opportunity. But then in the dual meet, it was a little bit different, right? Shapiro sits out. Chittum goes out there and kind of wrecks house. So I have Chittum beating Shapiro, making it to the quarters. I have him losing to Cardenas in that quarterfinal, and then Cardenas wrestling in the semis against Franek. So I think Franek makes the finals against Haynes. That's just my thought, but I think Franek, he's a 10 seed, but let's call it what it is. Like, we've seen him wrestle phenomenally this entire year. He ultimately gets the 10 seed after defaulting in his last match, and whatever, take that with a grain of salt. But I see it being a 1 versus 10. Levi Haynes ends up winning this in another dominant fashion as well. But yeah, there's a couple of upsets I guess I have in there. One of them being Chittum over Shapiro. Kevin, your thoughts?
I like it. I have Haynes winning it all as well. It's mostly chalk for me. I do have Shapiro. I actually have Chittum beating Shapiro, but on the backside of the bracket to make the third and fourth place match. I have Shapiro in the semis against Teamer. I have Teamer winning that and making the finals. And then I also have Bryce Andonian getting through. I think Blockus beats Scott. I think Andonian beats Blockus and then ultimately drops it to Hayes. But yeah, this one, I mean, this is one of those weights where you look at it and this is so deep. This is so insanely deep. Like, to have Luan and Saldate first round, like, that's nuts. Saldate beat him earlier in the year. Luan obviously is a two-time All-American and has wins over Franek, who you just referenced, and handful of other dudes in this weight. But Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. I'm really excited to see this. I also have Johnny Lovett fire up chips. He's wrestling. Gotta love when they just throw the conferences in against each other first round. Like, you couldn't have wrestled somebody other than the dude from Ohio. Like, that's how we're gonna do this. But yeah, nonetheless, I think that was an overtime match earlier in this year, so why not? I also have Joey Blaze beating Franek. I know he did that earlier this year, so I'm sure Franek's coming in with a little bit new game plan, but what the hell? My brackets don't actually mean anything. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have
No
fun with
one,
it.
no one gets any points from any of these picks, guys.
Yeah,
So like, as
not yet.
pissed off as you might get, no one gets any points. It doesn't matter. It's just thoughts. It's just us having a damn conversation. Um, I'm gonna go to Austin as someone who is not happy about conference versus conference first round matchups. We're gonna kick it to Austin and see what he thinks.
Yeah, Holmes, I actually had the same thing as you. Haynes over Franek in the finals. I just think Franek wrestling well all year, placed really high last year in a different singlet. Now he's an Iowa singlet. I just think a little more um, motivation for him, I guess. Um, I do want to ask you though, how healthy is Blockus from Minnesota? Because I saw he got pinned and then injured defaulted. So if he's hurt, I actually had Brignola over him in the first round.
I don't have any indication of Blockus being too injured.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't
I saw he
asked either.
defaulted, so I assumed he's hurt. But
Yeah,
this
I haven't
nowadays, that doesn't mean
asked,
anything.
so I don't really know, but I I don't know. I still have confidence in Blockus, and maybe it's because I, talked to the kid earlier in the year or whatever else. You
Mhm.
kind of get, you know, kind of a little attached, I guess, to these guys where you're just like,
Yeah,
I've actually talked to this kid. I know he's a good kid. I want to see him do well. But yeah, I don't know if he's hurt or not. Um, but yeah, the match for me on that bottom side, I know I forgot to say it, but the match for me on that bottom side is Franek versus Teamer. Um, I think Teamer gives up too much ground to beat Franek. Franek he's a guy, he's gonna stalk you, he's gonna chase you down, he's gonna get to your legs. Um, Crazy athleticism by Teamer. I would love to see him in the finals. Love to see him, but I think just it's a big style clash. Robbie, over to you.
Speaking of people you get connected to, I think Andonian creates a lot of chaos, and I think that's what has got him on the podium a couple times already. Um, I I hate that him and Ed Scott are in the same side. I do have them meeting as a quarter. I think Andonian gets it done this time. He's 0-2 this year, but for the lifetime, I think he's 4-2 against him. Um, I have both of them on the podium. I think Levi Haynes is kind of on a different level this year, and I think he ends up getting the title. I think I have him over Shapiro. Um, Bottom side is crazy though. Like, anything could happen. Chittum could certainly win. Cardenas could make a run. Franek could make a run. Teamer could do Teamer things. Um, I coached one of my kids in Virginia Beach against Teamer. I think it was sophomore or junior nationals. And I saw his name. I was like, it's going to be a bad day for you, buddy. And he went out and proceeded just to stomp the shit out of my kid. And I've enjoyed watching him since then. But I would like to see him go out on top. I don't think he does. I think Shapiro gets him in the semifinals, but he'd be a fun one to see
Yeah.
make some noise.
I think if we were able to get a Peyton Robb versus Ja'Cory Teamer match again in the finals,
just
I
gonna
would
say
be
that.
all for it. All bets are off in that one. Like, make it happen somehow. I honestly hope that they wrestle again. I mean, I know they wrestled at the beginning of the year. I think, what is that, CKLV?
DKLV, and I thought they wrestled twice.
Did they wrestle twice this year?
I thought two of Teamer's losses, maybe one of them was the All-Star though. I think that's what it was. It was All-Star Classic and then Cliff Keen, Las Vegas.
Yeah, I know Cliff Keen, Las Vegas. It was the final, I believe.
Yeah.
Nebraska, Arizona State had a duel this year. Did they wrestle in a duel?
Might have been. I can't
was
remember.
at the end of the
I
year.
just remember the one match that they had this year. But the most memorable one is both of them being absolutely dead on the mat, shaking hands, and everybody kind of cheering on that one. So, I mean, if we can make that happen at any point during the match, I don't care if it's in the finals or
I'd
if
be for
it's,
that.
seventh and eighth place. Like, I would love to see that one again. Um, but yeah, my upset of a double digit seed versus a single digit seed would be Chittim over Shapiro. I think that one's going to be a really good match when we finally get it. Ultimately, any other thoughts at 57 before we move to 65?
Yeah, I was looking at the bottom one there, Zurban and Teamer. I'm not sure if that's going to be a good match or not. I know Zurban was highly ranked. I just don't know how good he is compared to Teamer. I think that'll be an interesting matchup as well.
He's had a
Um,
pretty bad last half of the year.
yeah, that's
Um,
that's where I'm stuck with that too. Yeah.
so if he can bounce back and put some things together, maybe he had a good time to have a bad day, so that he can have his best days at the best time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a hell of a match too. I don't think you're wrong in that regard. But yeah, it's tough to kind of gauge and see like which guy are we going to see coming in
Yeah.
the
I
tournament.
think Zurban loses to Swenson right off the bat. So I am in fact wearing a South Dakota State sweatshirt.
All biases are on the table here.
Yep. This is fine. We're all good with this.
65. I'm skipping right to it. We're getting an Askren Wrestling Academy match in the finals. 1 versus 2. It's O'Toole, it's Messenbrink. I mean, I honestly want to see Carr and Messenbrink wrestle, but that's not going to happen unless somebody beats Messenbrink. But like, man, just let's see this match finally. Let's see what happens. Carr has a horrible, kind of a horrible draw. He's on the same side with Hamity and O'Toole, and it's just not gonna be too easy for Carr to come out of it. Not saying he can't do it because he's already won a national title. He's done literally the hardest thing to do at this tournament, which is win the entire damn thing. Um, but not easy for him at all. But I see it being 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 in the semis. Um, as much as I would like to say that there's some sort of outlier that can break into this top 4, I'm not seeing it ultimately. You know,
Not unless Sergio Lemley weighs 165 pounds.
the Sergio Lemley Man of the Year award going to Sergio Lemley. He just wrestles all comers. But no, I mean the 4 versus 5, I think it's going to be good between Carr and Hamity, but ultimately it's Carr's match, and then Carr, man, he's on his last year. O'Toole has more, so ultimately, I'd want to see Carr go out on top. Finish. If it's a fairy tale ending for every single one of these guys that we no longer have eligibility with, I would love it. Right? It would be the best thing ever. But that doesn't happen ever. Just like none of these picks happen ever. Right? Like we're
That's
just
true.
kind
Mine
of
are all correct. I don't
I
know what
mean,
you're talking about.
outside of the ACC just coming in and cleaning up,
Mhm.
NC State winning the national title over Penn State.
They're
That's the
sharing it
only
with
thing.
Virginia Tech, actually.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Sorry, my bad. I went with the ACC champion, so I figured that would at least work in your favor. Um, but no, I mean it's gonna be 1-1-4, 2-3. Um, you know, Messenbrink, sorry to say, but he's getting bonus on Ramirez. I think he just has a pace that Ramirez can certainly keep up with, but Messenbrink just goes so incredibly hard that it's just tough for anyone. It's just hard for anyone to really keep up with it. But yeah, I think in the end, it's O'Toole winning another title and then bumping up to 174 next year. Robbie, what are your thoughts?
I think this is one of the few weight classes we see go pretty chalk. These two, I mean, don't say two, 3 of them have really separated themselves from everyone. I think Keegan's continued to show that he owns the series over Carr, and I don't see that changing. Very excited to see those two wrestle in the finals. Though. If we get O'Toole Messenberg, it's going to be just a crazy match. Just we're going to see some weird stuff, and I'm here for it. I can't really be an ACC homer at this weight. It's the weakest weight in the ACC, and I think it would be a challenge to even get a lot of them into the round of 16. I do have a couple of them making it there. I don't think I have anybody making the blood round. So
You don't have Nick Hamilton in the finals?
no, I haven't won his first round match though.
Oh, you son of a bitch! You.
Amazing. Kev, your thoughts?
I have O'Toole and Mitch in the finals. I have O'Toole winning it. I wanted so badly to just like say, you know what, Mitch Messenbrink's getting it done, but I can't do it. That's the power that Keegan O'Toole has, especially this close to St. Patrick's Day. It's just sacrilegious to change it. I am a little surprised about the Carr thing, though. I mean, like, yeah, Carr lost the most recent one. Yeah, he lost in the NCAA finals, but what, they're 2-2 now, right? Like he went into the finals kind of dancing around last year. He was probably overly confident. And then, this most recent match, it was almost the opposite of that. He went into it without kind of the swagger that you normally see out of a David Carr. So I'm sure that they've watched a million things. I'm sure they're figuring out ways to finish those takedowns and to not get caught in anything. That being said, I'm still picking O'Toole to win. Where I do change it up though is I got Caliendo beating Ramirez. I've just seen Ramirez year after year have a great regular season and then not put it together in March.
So Nick Hamilton beating him first round.
There you go. So I definitely have Caliendo. That's my only big change, but Mitch and O'Toole. And I am gonna hate assuming Thursday night turns out to be Cam Amin and Isaac Olenek. That's gonna be like watching your children fight. I'm gonna hate that.
You put money on the bigger one though. That's how that works, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
He's gonna be like Kelsey's mom, like Travis and Jason Kelsey's mom with the split t-shirt.
just eating chunky soup.
Amazing. No, I know earlier in the year, what was it? Maybe like a month ago, when we were talking about conferences coming up, and it was in our group, and I think Willie had asked like, who do you have winning, like O'Toole or Carr? And I said, whoever wins at Big 12s loses in the NCAA finals, thinking that they would see each other in the NCAA finals, right? But I think Carr's draw is a little too much. And he can certainly get it going, but I think it kind of stalls out. No Carr pun intended there, but I think it kind of stalls out against O'Toole in the semis. So that's why I can't flip that as much as I would love to. It's tough to flip that because of what we just saw. But if it does get done, it's because Carr developed a double where he doesn't get stuck underneath O'Toole and finishes that double and is able to, work some sort of magic on top. That's the only thing I think can really happen. Austin, your thoughts?
No, I'll just keep it short and sweet. I have pretty much scratch in the quarters with one exception. I do have Cernigli at the 11 beating Caliendo with the 6 seed Thursday night. Might be a homer pick. Cernigli's D11, he's EIWA, but he's looking really good this semester. I think he has 2 losses now, one to Ramirez last week. It was 5-3 score, I think, something like that. So Cernigli's looked really good. So I'm just picking him over Caliendo. May not happen, probably won't happen, but I like Cerniglia.
Yeah, I made sure to stay away from all our hometown guys if I could, so that I wouldn't look like a complete homer. But
just embrace it.
I'm going to be a
just
homer.
Embrace it.
I know
it's easier.
It probably would make things easier, but it's tough ultimately to do that. You, if I was like true like our hometown, I would be like anyone that went to Notre Dame or Bethlehem Catholic. I hope you all lose,
Yep.
because that's literally what happens back home. They're just like, nope, we can't stand you guys. And then all these guys get to the NCAA level and they all love each other, which is like
Mhm.
the funniest thing. I talked to Darren Cruz about it before. They all like love each other when they get to the NCAA level. They hate each other in high school, and then it's just like no one even gives a damn anymore. But yeah, 65 is going to be an awesome. I think it's going to be awesome up and down. There's going to be a lot of parity, a lot of close matches for sure. Caliendo is that guy that I think can, bust things up at the in the bottom half, but only until the semis. And I can see him beating Julian Ramirez as well, because Ramirez has had some tough times putting things together at the NCAA championships. But yeah, no matter what, it's a 1 versus 2, and number one coming out on top of all of it in the end. But I will say this: if Carr does get it done, I see Carr beating Messenbrink. That will be my other caveat pick, is if Carr does get past O'Toole, I do see him beating Messenbrink.
I like it. You guys want to skip 174? Just go right to 184.
74 is when's the last time you picked a 9 seed to win?
Yeah, right. It might have been a Penn State guy. I don't remember what he was seeded, but it was I did pick.
Quentin Wright?
Oh, I'm blank.
You would say Quentin Wright was a
Yeah,
nine seed,
Quentin
wasn't he?
Wright. Quentin
He
Wright.
was a 9 seed.
I picked him in what was his sophomore year or something like that. His first one. Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
was
that
the
was
9
it.
seed as well. That's why I think he tweeted earlier in the week, like, we like the 9 seed. We have no problem with the 9 seed, right? Yeah, I mean, this one sucks. You have 3 champions all on the same side of the bracket, and it's just whoever comes out of the top side wins. Let's call it that. I think it's safe to say whoever comes out of the top side of the bracket is going to ultimately be the winner. And by that I mean either the 1, the 9, or the 4. Mackay, they did him no favors whatsoever with making Carter the 9. I hope that Carter is healthy. He's back wrestling in the room right now, right? So
He has been since right after it happened, though. So
yeah,
he's
so
probably
like,
tired.
I hope he is healthy. I hope he is ready to go. I hope the knee is all on point. Same thing for Shane Griffith. I hope his knee is okay, or whatever part of his leg he was limping on. I hope he's fine, or at least fine-ish, fine enough. But yeah, it's definitely going to be, you give me the 1, the 9, or the 4, and that's who's going to end up winning it. Whoever's the healthiest out of those guys, and it might be Mackay Lewis at this point. We saw Mackay wrapped up like a freaking mummy last year, not be able to really do much. This year, he's the healthiest of the horses. I'm going to take Carter Sirachi because he is Carter freaking Sirachi, but would not be surprised to see Mackay Lewis come out of this one and win all of it. The bottom side of the bracket, I hate to say it, but it doesn't really matter. Because it really is all about the top half. But I'm picking Edmund Ruth to make the finals. I feel like he's a little bit more battle tested, and he's a little bit more ready for this. And I mean, he's even shown that as well. I don't even have I have MJ beating Cade DeVos in the second round. I don't see the 2 seed making it to even to the quarters. So yeah, I think it is a 9 versus 3 seed making it here, with Sirachi versus Ruth, and ultimately Sirachi winning it. Robbie, on to you.
Mackay Lewis Revenge Tour 2024.
I wondered who you were gonna pick.
I'm working off the assumption with what we saw, the injury that we saw to Carter and to Shane, that neither of them are going to be close to 100%. This is the first time since his freshman year that Makai is coming in healthy. Last year, he had multiple injuries and then dislocated his finger during the tournament. So this is the first year he's coming in at 100%. I don't even think he's pretty close to 100%, if not there. He's not dinged up. I mean, as close as you can be at 26. But I've got him making a run. I think he's gonna. I'm not too worried about Valencia or Bauman first round. I think he still has some spicy feelings to Jackson Turley, and I think he tries to send a message there. I think Strachey is able to take care of the first couple matches, but I think a not healthy Carter Strachey can't beat Makai Lewis. So I've got Makai taking him out in the quarters, and then I've got Carter battling back to All-American, but then defaulting out. So my mindset is that he's not at 100% based off of what I've heard, what I've seen. And, maybe I'm wrong, because nobody really knows unless you're actually in that Penn State room what's going on there. And we all know that Kale always has something up his sleeve, and is able to get things done in March that nobody else is. So maybe he is good, and maybe he'll go in and destroy everybody. But I'm going to operate off the assumption that he's not at full strength. So I like Makai making the finals. I actually have Justin McCoy knocking off Shane Griffith in the second round and making it to the semifinals. So I got an all ACC semifinal. I know that's also shocking. But I think Makai gets it done again. I think he bookends the career and brings home another title for the Hokies.
Not a bad pick. I mean, I don't think it's outside. I don't think anything that we've said is really outside the realm possibility, right? Like, especially with these guys being dinged up. Kevin, you?
Yeah, I've got the bottom half is just I don't know what I was doing when I put this together. I got
the seating committee.
Yeah, right. I got Rocco Welsh and Nick Icontrera in the semis on the bottom side.
Nice.
Yeah, I got Icontrera beating Benny Baker, who beats Lenny Wolak. It's just a mess on the bottom side.
Wow.
Top side's pretty standard. It's Lewis loses to Strachey. Griffith beats Kennedy again, and then Strachey beats Griffith, and Strachey beats Rocco Welsh in the finals.
Rocco Welsh.
I mean,
yeah,
no one wants to be caught in the crosshairs of Benny Baker. We've seen what he does to top seeds.
Right.
I mean, he beat the 5 seed in this bracket twice a week ago. So yeah, who knows what the hell is going to happen on the bottom half of the bracket. Austin, what are your thoughts?
Well, they put all the good wrestlers on the top half. What are you
they did.
to do?
Yeah,
anything could happen.
Yeah, it's going to be the Wild West in that bottom half.
Yeah, so up top, I do have Strachey, but I just don't know how healthy he is. Like, obviously, right? But part of me is thinking, if his knee is really banged up, and say he does have a torn ACL, torn MCL, whatever it is, I just don't see how he's going to score on Makai. Makai is so good defensively. He's so explosive. I think if Strachey is injured, it definitely favors Makai Lewis. But again, until proven otherwise, I think Carter's the man there. Here's something I don't think any of you guys have. I have Patrick Kennedy in the semis. I just think with Griffith's injury there, Canigliaro at 5, not wrestling well last weekend. I think Kennedy comes out of 12 and knocks off a few higher ranked guys. I think I'm not an Iowa fan, but Patrick Kennedy I do like. He's a dog, man. He's gonna fight hard. Bottom half, I have Welsh in the finals. And semi, I have either Wolak or Incontrera. I'm undecided yet. But I think EIWA will be represented there somehow, eventually beating DeVos from South Dakota State. Sorry, Conch. I know you're getting paid to wear their shirt there, pick their guys, but I'm going to go against them.
Hey, I got my EIWA dude, Contreras. In Contreras, how do I say
You
his
almost
name?
got his name right too.
In
Yeah,
Contreras, yeah.
In
in
Contreras.
Contreras. I have
Yep.
him beating DeVos anyway, so
Good. I
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't make it too obvious you're getting paid.
I think outside of the whole Carter thing, if we had a Makai Lewis Edmund Ruth match in the final, I think that would be great.
That'd be fun.
That'd be really cool. Just my thoughts there.
That's what I have, if that helps.
Yeah, that'd be good. 84, give me Parker Keckeisen all day. All day. He is the man. And I see him beating Dustin Plott in the finals. Salazar he's wrestled very well, including last week. I see him losing to TJ Stewart. Very close. 2 stalling calls on Stewart late in the match is what I'm calling for.
That checks out.
But yeah. I mean, the match that it's going to be the biggest one for Plott outside of obviously the final is going to be that match with Truax. Truax is tough. He's long, he's lanky. You got to get to his legs in the middle of the mat, because if you get to his legs on the end of the mat, he's going to step off of it. Let's call it what it is. We've seen it enough times. He knows what his length is. He's going to use it, especially when he gets on the edge of the mat. So, but yeah, I think Plott has been wrestling very well this year. And I see it being a Big 12 finals rematch of Plott versus Keckeisen. But it's really not a tough road for Keckeisen. And even if he had Plott on that side of the bracket, it wouldn't be tough. We saw what he did to Plott in the Big 12 finals. We've seen what he has done to everyone this entire year. But I will say I won't be surprised if Truax does pull out the win over Plott, just based off of what we've seen from Penn State in all the years. But I think it's a 1 versus 3 here for me ultimately. But yeah, TJ Stewart beating Salazar in the semi, Dustin Plott beating TJ Stewart to make the final. Austin, to you.
I got Keckeisen winning the thing. I do have Truax in the finals. Just again, it's just the Penn State phenomenon. They show up at NCAAs. I know Truax is new there, but I think that magic rubs off on him, and he does tend to show up for NCAAs. What if he's at Cal Poly or Penn State, right? So I just have a good feeling about him. I did not pick this one, but I just have a feeling about Izarov and Munoz second round. I just think Izarov is wrestling really well lately. I think he's a little under the radar from Columbia. And
Not to Chris Foca though.
well, yeah, he beat Foca 3 times this year, so that gives you an idea of how good Izarov is. He's very good. I just know Munoz is so tough. Yeah, again, I'm so tempted to pick it. I did not, but maybe just something to look out for. Izarov, 13C from Columbia.
Nice. Oh, I also have Lenny Pinto wrestling Keckeisen in the semis.
Yeah, as do I. Because you're a D11 homer, so that's fine.
I big one. His coach was his high school coach was a really good friend of mine.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, so I think Pinto ends up making it to the semis. Kevin, your thoughts?
I got 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the semis. This is about most standard, boring bracket. I think really the only upset that I have is Bennett Berge of South Dakota State Jackrabbits over the 8 seed. The 9 seed beating the 8 seed is my biggest reach with this bracket so far. But yeah, I mean,
I have that too for the record.
Yeah, I mean, this is his year. This is it. I mean, he's done everything he's needed to do to this point. He's looked healthy. We've talked about that a couple different times. I think that they're going to have him ready to go, and he's going to come in there with as much confidence as you can have. And I do see him beating Dustin Plott in the finals.
Nice. Robbie, question for you. Do you think Reese Heller pulls it out? Kidding. Keep going. Go ahead, Robbie.
Reese Heller pulls it out against Rogotsky. Yeah, I got him beating Rogotsky. I have him losing a close match to Salazar, but I wouldn't be surprised if he beats him, to be honest. Heller's tricky. What I do have is the exact same thing as you. I've got Kekheisen beating Pinto, and I've got Plott over TJ Stewart in a close match to make the finals. TJ's just looked fantastic the last month, and I can't sleep on the momentum that he has, and I like his run. I like his draw. I think beating Fishback for a third time will be challenging, but he's looked great in both matches. So I've got him coming through on the bottom side to meet Plott. I think Plott is really good, and I think he's kind of. I mean, he's not underrated. Clearly, he's a 3 seed, but I don't think that he gets the shine that he probably should for as good as he is.
Yeah, he's been consistently good throughout the year, and he's looked really good. But I think with the top with the top dog in the weight class being in your conference, really hard to kind of outshine that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a no, I wouldn't say boring weight class, but as opposed to all the others, this one is, pretty straight through. The top guys have been the top guys all year. There hasn't been a lot of shifting. They've just been very consistent. I think the biggest firework, honestly, has been TJ Stewart as of late with his entrance into the weight class. So, I think that's kind of where, if we're going to get any sort of action and big time fireworks, is going to come from TJ Stewart in this weight class.
Or Ryder Rogotsky reach back pins.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the only other thing that you're going to get is every elementary school coach telling them not to watch a Ryder Rogotsky match. 97, it's 1 versus 2. It doesn't matter who else is really.
Yeah, if we get anything else, start the tournament over.
I'm sorry.
Go back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's just not gonna happen. We talked about this last week. The 3 and 4 seeds should ultimately be switched, though. Beard should be the 3 seed, Tanner Sloan should be the 4. Because Beard's 1 loss is to the 2 seed, whereas Tanner Sloan's 1 loss is to the 11 seed.
That's correct.
Jackson Smith. So yeah, that should be flipped, but either way, it's, both those guys losing in the semis to the number 1 and number 2 ranked guys. So I'm taking Brooks, just like Starachi, until you beat the man. He's the king of the castle. So give me Brooks, and over to Robbie to tell us why Trent Hidley is going to be winning.
Because he's really good. Trent's looked amazing at 97. I think that's been so good for him to move up. He's like 86, 87% bonus rate. Nobody's really scored on him. I mean, he's looked the part. We always know that him and Brooks are going to be close. It's going to be a good match. From what I've seen from Trent this year, I think he's on a different level, and I think he finally gets it done.
Who do you have Trent wrestling in the semis? I have Jackson Smith for that matter.
I do as well.
I have Lou Dupre. I got Dupre
pick, Robbie.
Beating Sloan in the quarters.
Nice.
The old man battle in the semis.
old man battle in the semis. It'll be a battle of I think they both warm up in collared shirts too, as well.
As they should. It's like the whole room and in NC State does it now. It's hilarious. Like
Oh
it's
yeah. Yeah,
it's wild.
it is a thing. It is certainly a thing.
I really hope that Adam Hall takes that to Utah Valley as well. And we start having teams just wearing polos all the time. Got like the Vision Quest coach going everywhere. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but you got to pull the singlet over the collared shirt
Absolutely.
though.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then roll the socks down over the shoes.
Over the shoes.
Yep.
Has NC State gotten that bad? Is there a singlet over the polo yet?
Yes. Somebody was wearing one last week. I don't remember who it was. Maybe Christian Knott. Yeah, somebody was wearing the full get up. It was fantastic.
And it was not like an ironic thing either. Like it was
No,
on
they just
purpose.
roll with it.
They
That's just what they do now. You gonna tell Trent Hidley no?
Nope.
I love that he probably has capris on too. So it's the singlet over
he
the
has
polo
like
and then the
cut off,
capris.
like the Bill Belichick version of the sweatpants, like cut off capri
That's awesome.
sweatpants. Absolutely what it is.
Oh man. Style of the year goes to NC State. Best fashion goes to those guys.
And
It's not Tommy Gant's
painted on
red
beard.
suit and red jacket. It is the cutoff capris, the singlet over top of the polo shirt.
Can we talk about Pat Pop's beard?
He didn't he get a Gillette endorsement?
Look, man. So I dressed up as a hobo for Christmas for Halloween when I was like 7, and my mom painted on a beard with like shoe polish. I swear, looks exactly like Pat Pop's beard.
That's
And I love
awesome.
Pat, and I wouldn't say that to his face because he's a lot bigger than me, but that's what it looks like.
It's a strong beard. If I have the chance to see him before the tournament, I will interview him and ask him about the beard and
Fantastic.
what happened. I will take my shot.
I think you're a little more intimidating than I am, Ryan. So I'm good with that.
Well, I know I can get him to joke around a little bit. We've had some fun.
Hard to do. That's hard to do. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah,
I'm getting to that point with him. So
we've had our fun in the past. So like I think we're on a good level where I can get him to joke a little bit, even if it is the day before the tournament. Kevin, your thoughts on 197?
Yeah, I got the final we all want. I've got the same result that you know we should have, right? Brooks is probably going to win it again. He's won several to this point. But no, I also have Smith beating Dupre. That was a match that they had wrestled. Oh, it might have been Cliff Keen last year, but that was where Jackson Smith originally hurt his ankle last year, had to take some time off and come back. And then it was the next match that Dupre got hurt and was out for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I have Smith winning that match. I have Smith beating Sloan again. I have him losing to Hidley, and then I've got Cardenas beating Beard of Cornell. So in that semi, so Brooks over Cardenas, Hidley over Smith, Brooks over Hidley.
I mean, I'd be surprised if Cardenas is able to get it done against Beard. It's been tough sledding for him against Beard this year, and I mean, in past years as well. Austin, you?
Yeah, I got Brooks over Beard. But just to talk about Beard Cardenas real quick in the quarters, again, Beard's beaten him twice this season already. So beating a guy for a third time, especially if Cardenas' caliber, going to be a tough draw. Beard beat him twice last year. No, he beat him once last year, lost him twice last year. Cardenas was an All-American last year. Beard was around to 12. So just, that'd be an interesting one, the quarters there. I also have Lou Dupre in the semis beating out Sloan. In the quarters, I just feel he came back on a mission this year, started on the coaching staff, as you guys know. Second semester came back. I think this is literally his last chance at it. So I think he's going to go all out. And again, he's just old. He's been there this is his 7th year of eligibility. I think he has 2 doctorates now. So yeah, I think he's ready to go.
Speaking of old, did you guys know that Stephen Buchanan has another year of eligibility?
How?
This is what I heard recently, was that he's already confirmed he's coming back for his final year next year.
Yeah, he
Doesn't
took a
I
weird
mean,
medical last year or something, didn't he?
Yeah.
While
what
Well, there was the whole
transferring.
stuff. Yeah.
what comes after PhD? Like, what the hell? Like, you,
Yeah. PHE.
like, they just
PH
give
Yeah.
you
double
like
D.
a gold plaque, and it's just like you
Yeah.
beat the game. I got we've run out of stuff. All
Here's
right.
your gold watch. Up to the sunset.
And your members only jacket,
Yeah.
and it's over. Um, on to what I believe is the most lock to win this tournament, Greg Kirkfleet, at 285.
Not
If
Daniel Buknovich.
uh no, not him, not Yaroslav Slavakuski, not Nash Hutmacher,
Josh Heinzelman.
not Heinzelman. Hendrickson, I think makes it to the semis and loses to Bastida again. Uh I think Bastida makes it very interesting, though. That I will say. Um, and it will not be a very easy time for Bastida. I mean, he's got Davison on his side. But let me take that back.
That was a closer match than I think people remember. People remember
Yes.
the lift and return, but like there was no points from that. You know, it was a close match.
Yeah. But I ultimately have Gadiali beating Davison.
Do you? Okay.
I do, and not based on seed or anything else. Gadiali's just been wrestling very well since last year, and you've just seen him
Yeah.
like pick up steam and pick up steam and pick up steam. And I think Gadiali makes it to the quarter. I think he makes it an interesting quarter against Bastida because both guys are a little bit more athletic heavyweights. I mean, we saw it obviously with Bastida up against Hendrickson in the finals, and Gadiali moves very well. And I think he can kind of match that pace with Bastida, but ultimately it's a little bit too much raw power from Bastida. But I see 1 versus 2 here with Bastida taking the L in the final. And yeah, I mean, Hendrickson, he's got a pretty smooth path to the semis. Bastida actually has a worse path, if you ask me, to the semi with Davison and Gadiali on that side as well. Top side, it's not really going to matter much. Um, I think Colton Schultz should be able to make the semis. It's going to be all Greco locks and not a lot of knee touching for him all the way to the semi. But yeah, I mean, Feldman in the quarter for Kirkfleet. Kirkfleet gave up his one and only takedown of the year against Feldman. And that happened, I believe, in the finals of Big Tens. One and only takedown, was down 3-0, and then it was just all him the rest of the entire tournament. Nathan Taylor will be a really good match up against Colton Schultz. I think 4 versus 5 in the quarter will be really good. But ultimately, I just think that Schultz kind of weathers the storm that Taylor has and ends up making it to the semis. So chalk here, 1, 2, 3, 4 making the semi, 1 taking out 2 in the final. Robbie, on to you.
I think that's what I've got as well. I am interested to see if the Hendrickson Bastida rematch is any closer, but I think Younger has just looked so dominant this year that it's hard not to pick him, even though he's got a tough path. So I've got Bastida, Kirkfleet in the finals. I've got Kirkfleet taking him out. Kirkfleet over Schultz on the top side. Nothing too surprising there.
Yeah.
I think this is the only weight that I have. Nope, I got Davison winning. So to say, thought I had straight 8 for All Americans, but I got Davison sneaking in.
Nice. Kev, your picks?
Yeah, I mean, this same thing. You know, the only one that I really couldn't figure out is the Nathan Taylor Colton Schultz match. But ultimately, I just went with the top 4 seeds here. Kirk over Schultz, Younger over Hendrickson, and yeah, that's pretty standard. I like Zach Elam a lot. He's not going to probably beat Wyatt and Hendrickson, but shout out Zach Elam. Great career. talking about, we're bringing on Vision Quest stuff. I mean, he's been rocking that same Halo headgear his whole career.
It
So
just hurts my head every time I see that.
yeah, I
Like,
wore those
I've
in
still
middle
got,
school.
like,
They were
scars
they were
from-
awful.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Those were terrible. Yeah. Austin, on to you to let us know that Nathan Taylor's going to get revenge over Colton Schultz for Jordan Wood.
I don't know how you knew that I was going to say that, but
Yeah.
yeah,
We
it's
were
one of
all
those.
thinking it. Yeah.
It's one of those things where my mind says Schultz. That I think that's the right pick, but my heart just says Taylor. I just have a soft thing for those Lehigh guys, and Schultz and Wood last year was a great match. I just think Lehigh they've seen that match before. They kind of know how that's going to go already to a point. It's obviously I'm some dummy. I don't coach anything, but I just feel like there's ways that they can manipulate Schultz's Greco ability, and Taylor
grab
is
his legs. He doesn't know what to do with it.
I mean, Taylor is just as big as Schultz too. Taylor is a big freaking dude. Again, it's probably going to be Schultz, but I have Taylor down, just going with my heart there. But yeah, Kirk and Bastida in the finals. I think Kirk Fleet is just too big, too fast, too good. I think it was Joe Kanya tweeted out that Kirk Fleet was probably the best overall NFL prospect of all the people in the NCAA tournament, which I could agree with. He's a freak athlete, tall, lanky, and powerful, and yeah, he's just really good.
I think Nash Hutmacher might have something to say about
that.
that.
Yeah, that's probably legit too. Yeah,
considering he's been starting for a Big Ten team. I don't care that it is Nebraska, but he's been a 300-pound D lineman for 4 years. I think I'm going to go with that guy.
I think he had a caveat that said beside Hutmacher,
Yeah.
Kirkley is probably the best prospect, just from size and ability. But yeah,
Hutmacher's got a way better nickname though too.
Who's the least likely to make the NFL? Is it Michael DiAugustino?
The 125 pounders, yeah.
It's probably DiAugustino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if his 40 times great.
He looks more like a soccer player with that beard anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about is team race. And there's kind of two realms of this. First question, do we think Penn State matches? Yes. Do we think they match or beat the highest team points ever? They could potentially get all 10 guys to be All-Americans. It's only happened one other time, and it was Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
They could potentially match that. Do you guys see that happening?
No.
I don't know. Not according to these brackets.
Who's the guy that you do not have being an All-American for Penn State?
I don't have Braden Davis even in the 1 seed.
Yeah, I don't have him either.
Just because 25 is such a shit show that, I mean, it wouldn't be surprising at all. Maybe he could win the whole thing, or he could
not place
knocked out in 16.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's between Davis and even a guy like Kasek, just freshman, never been there. And, even the gal with 33 being the way it is, he's a 10 seed. He's obviously done it before, but, the way 33 could fall out, we could see Nagao not place as well, so I think everything needs to pretty much go almost perfectly for Penn, maybe not perfectly, but, they need to have a lot of things go their way in order to make all 10 of those All-Americans.
And they need to have a fully healthy Carter Strachey as well.
And that too, yeah.
Funny, some of these I'm looking at the backside of the bracket, and I'm like, oh, they're winning it. That's why they're not down here. This is 157. Okay.
Oh yeah, he's at the top of the podium. I shouldn't even turn to this page.
Why am I looking at the backside?
Yeah, right. Yeah, those guys don't live there. So second question is, who do we see filling out the rest of these trophies? Obviously we all see Penn State winning it, even without a healthy Srirachi, right? We still see them winning it, even without Kasich or Nagao placing. I mean, even if those three guys, say Srirachi ends up getting hurt worse and has to default out, Kasich ends up going 1-2 or 2-2. Nagao, same type of thing, right? Like, even with that, we still see them winning. What other teams do you see being in that top? For me, I honestly think NC State gets into that top four. Um, and along with them, I think that Michigan is number two, just based on what we saw at Big Tens. I honestly thought that it was going to be Nebraska, and Michigan actually showed up and wrestled very, very well at Big Tens. So I see it going, what was it? Penn State, Michigan, NC State, and then Oklahoma State at four, honestly. Um, Austin, to you, what do you think is going to happen with the team race?
Yeah, I agree with NC State. I think they're in good position to do that. They got a lot of hammers. Um, for some reason, I just can't count Iowa out. They're not set up great on paper right now, but I think if Ayala makes the finals and, you got a guy like Franek as a 10 seed that can make the finals, and I have PK making the semis if that happens or not. I just feel like you can't count them out for at least top five, and so things could go awry, and they can end up in that top three. But yeah, I agree about Michigan too. But a question mark I have with Michigan is Griffith. If he's able to perform and place top four, I think they can do that. But if his knee's really banged up and he goes 0-2, 1-2, he's leaving a lot of points on the table there. So yeah, again, it's hard to not count Iowa out, but I think it is NC State, Michigan as the two front runners, just kind of what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the team race after number one is tremendous parity, right? You've got Michigan, Nebraska, NC State, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State. Like, there's only a couple of teams that take home a trophy, right? So it's
Yeah.
going to be a serious battle. Robbie, what do you think of the team race?
Um, it's going to be close. I think NC State is in a better position to make the run this year. I mean, so many times in the last few years, they've had the team coming in and they've had great seeds and they just haven't got it done. I think they have the team to get it done this year, and I think they do. I think they get on the podium. Oklahoma State has really, really impressed me this year, and I think they're coming in with a lot of momentum. I think they have some good draws. Um, I could definitely see them in there. Michigan, Nebraska, both kind of coin flips. Um, they've they've both got the potential to be on the podium, but we'll see. I don't. I couldn't pick either of those two. I think it's going to be Oklahoma State, NC State, and either Nebraska or Michigan. I'm not sure how that's going to shake out.
Yeah. Kev, wrap us up. Who do you see placing after Penn State?
I mean,
Central Michigan.
yeah, far up chips. The only other team that hasn't been mentioned that I have a lot of guys moving pretty deep on my bracket is Cornell. I think if, I mean, we have all kind of joked a little bit during these about their selective wrestling during the season, but this is kind of why you do that, right? So you can show up in March and be as healthy and prepared as you can be and get it done. So, if you have a Vito make the finals or win it all again for that matter, right? Or if you have a Shapiro make the finals, I had Cardenas, beating Beard. There's just a lot of things where I'm looking at my brackets and I'm like, there they are again, So they're definitely well coached. They're definitely talented, and they're one of the few teams that has all 10, right? Like
Yeah,
them,
I think there's
Virginia
what, like
Tech.
six. There's six teams, I think,
Five or six.
5 or 6 teams that
Yeah.
have all 10.
So I mean that's huge. So but yeah, and then Michigan, obviously I'm gonna lean into that, in Iowa and NC State. Those are my 5 teams to place in the
Those
top 4.
are your top three teams.
Yeah. Here's my top 3 teams. All
Yeah.
7 of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got South Dakota State, Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're up there
They
too.
didn't pay
They're
enough for
they're
that.
they're the 6th top 5 team.
Yeah. There's a 6th one in there. Funny thing is we're not even mentioning Ohio State either, right? Like Ohio State,
Yeah.
another team that can be an X factor in that. They didn't they didn't hit, who was it? They didn't wrestle Iowa or Nebraska during the year. So a lot of those matchups that we had seen with them versus Iowa guys or Nebraska guys at Big Tens, it was the first time that they had done it this year. So another team that can be kind of an X factor. But the team race, it's going to be as close as ever this year from, 2 on down, right? Like there's going to be a lot of teams jockeying for those top spots, but it's ultimately going to be awesome. None of these picks do anyone actually benefit from. This is literally us just talking shit. But man, I think with all the different points we brought up, it's going to be a wild tournament. There's definitely going to be a 25 seed that pops up out of nowhere and does something crazy and, something that we didn't expect. But gentlemen, as always, I love chopping up a bracket, talking results, talking some predictions. We've hit the last week of the season, last final days of the season. So it's been a pleasure to really dig into these things with you guys throughout the year. Definitely have to do it. Probably talk a little bit of freestyle during the off folk style season. But it's been great. Kev, I'll see you in Kansas City. The rest of you gentlemen, I'm sure we will be talking throughout the entire week. But it's been awesome, dude. Appreciate it.